Really what happens is your ability to absorb rainwater is being obliterated by burning, but it's also being obliterated by asphalt and roof and concrete. And apparently humans don't like to drive on anything but asphalt and concrete. So we put that everywhere. And then we cover everything up with roof until there's no ability of the soil to absorb any of the water. And then what we do is we collect it into our ditches and we send it downstream. Where do you think the ditches go? The ditches go to the river. The river continues to add a lot of water and it continues to get bigger and bigger. And anybody downstream is going to be affected by this, right? And that's why we see more and more flash floods that are taking out bridges that used to be sufficient for these kinds of places. And then mud flows and all the things. It just gets worse and worse. It's a huge cycle. So we got to get ourselves out of this cycle, which means we got to prevent those fires in the first place. We've got to prevent that flooding issues in the first place, whether that means that we have to put in ponds to be able to absorb all the excess water or whatever we've got to do to protect our properties and realize that we're part of this too, right? And then, of course, insurance. And I will tell you that the number of people that I talk to after huge disasters like this that tell me that they got payouts that were 10% or 20% of what the rebuild was going to be. In other words, they had a $100,000 barn and they thought they would get these days to rebuild it would be $250,000. And somebody gives them a check for $25,000. How are you going to rebuild a $250,000 barn with $25,000? You're not going to be able to. So you got to read the fine print. You got to look at all these things. You really should sit down with someone who knows what you're talking about on your insurance plan so that you can cover yourself. Because whether it's individual insurance or it's business insurance, which I promise you, if you have a horse business, it's a business and you need to have business insurance. Otherwise, what happens is the insurance company will let you run along until there's actually a loss. And then they come along and they've got their pictures and they say, hey, wait, looks like to me you were running a business. Aren't those kids that are taking lessons there? This looks like a business to me. And they just say, we're not paying out. Promise. Take a look at your insurance.